The riddles of God are more satisfying than the solutions of man. This potent observation, penned by the inimitable G.K. Chesterton, cuts to the very heart of a struggle that defines so much of our human experience: the relentless pursuit of control. We live in a world that champions the planner, the strategist, the individual who can bend circumstances to their will. We meticulously craft 5-year plans, optimize our routines, build intricate safety nets, and invest enormous energy in trying to foresee and forestall every conceivable disruption. The promise is alluring. If we can just get a firm enough grip on the reins, if we can just anticipate every variable, if we can just manage every detail perfectly, then surely we will achieve security, success, and that elusive state of inner peace. We believe almost instinctively that control is strength, that knowing the path is paramount, and that any deviation, any loss of our meticulously plotted course is a step towards failure, a sign of weakness, a harbinger of chaos. But what if this deeply ingrained assumption, this cultural idolization of absolute control, is not only flawed but profoundly limiting? What if the frantic effort to steer every current, to predict every storm, actually blinds us to deeper currents and more resilient forms of navigation? What if the moments where we feel the ground give way beneath our feet, where our maps become useless, and where our carefully constructed plans shatter into 1,000 pieces, are not just terrifying voids, but also profound openings? Openings to a different kind of power. A strength forged not in dominance, but in surrender. An unexpected beauty revealed not by our design, but by a grander, wilder artistry. A profound sense of peace that could never be manufactured by our own anxious efforts. This is the startling, countercultural, yet deeply resonant wisdom that echoes through the voluminous and vibrant writings of Gilbert Keith Chesterton. He was a man who was himself a delightful paradox, a colossal figure both physically and intellectually, a master of logic who celebrated mystery, a fierce debater who exuded an almost childlike joy, a journalist, a novelist, a poet, a theologian, and a social critic whose insights remain startlingly relevant over a century later. Chesterton didn't just think, he wondered. He possessed an uncanny ability to turn conventional wisdom on its head, to dust off ancient truths and reveal their enduring sparkle, to find the sublime hidden within the seemingly absurd. And among his many profound contributions to our understanding of life and faith, his perspective on the surprising power found in what we perceive as losing control offers a crucial antidote to the anxieties of our modern age. He invites us to reconsider what true strength looks like and where it might truly be found. Chesterton, the Prince of Paradox, delighted in showing how seemingly contradictory ideas could embrace and illuminate a richer, more complete truth. And there are few ideas that feel more antithetical to our modern sensibilities than losing control and gaining power. Power in the common lexicon is about assertion, about influence, about the capacity to implement one's will. Losing control, conversely, evokes images of helplessness, of being a victim of circumstance, of being adrift in a chaotic sea. It's the stuff of our nightmares, not our aspirations. Yet Chesterton, with his characteristic twinkle and profound insight, compels us to look closer, to question the very nature of the control we seek and the power we idolize. Is the ultimate power found in the ability to impose our will on the world, to force reality to conform to our limited blueprints, to eliminate every element of surprise or uncertainty? Or is there a different, perhaps more profound power to be discovered? A power rooted in resilience rather than rigidity, in wonder rather than mere knowing, in trust rather than anxious calculation? A power that emerges when we find the courage to engage with life as it truly is, in all its untamed and unpredictable glory. One of Chesterton's most enduring and illustrative metaphors for this concept comes from his reflections on something as seemingly mundane as roads. In his book The Flying Inn and elsewhere, he famously contrasted the character of Roman roads with that of English lanes. The Roman roads, he observed, were monuments to power, planning, and imperial control. They were typically straight, built with formidable engineering prowess, cutting directly across landscapes, hills, and valleys. Their purpose was clear: to facilitate the swift movement of legions, to assert Roman dominion, to connect disparate parts of a vast empire with ruthless efficiency. They symbolize the human will imposing its design upon nature, a testament to rational planning and conquest. They were predictable, direct, and, in their own way, magnificent feats of control. They represent our own deep-seated desire for a life that is similarly linear, efficient, and conquerable. We want to draw our own Roman roads across the map of our future. Then there were the English roads, or more poetically, the rolling English road that he so famously celebrated in verse. These were an entirely different creature. They were not, for the most part, the product of a single overarching design imposed from above. Instead, they had evolved organically over centuries. They meandered, they twisted, they turned. They followed the natural contours of the land, respecting the rise of a hill, the curve of a river, the boundary of an ancient wood. They were shaped by the footsteps of countless generations. Farmers going to their fields, pilgrims to their shrines, lovers to their trysts, villagers to the market. They were a testament to adaptation, to local wisdom, to the accumulated experience of people living in intimate connection with their environment. They were often inefficient by Roman standards, certainly unpredictable, and anything but straight. They were, Chesterton suggested, made by the English people. Most modern sensibilities, obsessed with optimization and control, would instinctively gravitate towards the Roman road as the ideal. It represents clarity, purpose, speed, and a comforting lack of ambiguity. The winding English lane, by contrast, might appear haphazard, inefficient, perhaps even a symbol of a less advanced, less controlled way of being. It's the scenic route, perhaps, but not the sensible one for those with important destinations. But Chesterton, with his poet's eye and philosopher's mind, saw a profound, life-affirming truth in the English road. He saw in its twists and turns not chaos, but character, not inefficiency, but an embodiment of history, community, and a deep, unforced harmony with the natural world. He saw that by not being subjected to a rigid, centrally imposed plan, the English road allowed for something precious: discovery. Its meanderings revealed hidden beauties, a sudden vista, a secluded grove, an ancient oak that a straight road would have bulldozed. It encouraged a different kind of travel, one less about speed and more about experience, less about destination and more about the journey itself. This, for Chesterton, was a powerful metaphor for the journey of life, and especially for the journey of faith. We can try, with all our human ingenuity and determination, to construct those straight Roman roads for our lives. We meticulously plan our careers, envision our ideal relationships, attempt to engineer environments free from risk and discomfort. We crave this straight, predictable, controllable path, believing it to be the surest route to happiness, security, and fulfillment. But the raw, undeniable reality of human existence is that life is far more akin to the rolling English road than the straight Roman one. It bends, it curves. It presents us with unexpected hills that test our endurance, and sudden, sharp turns that disorient us. Rivers of unforeseen challenges, illness, loss, betrayal, economic upheaval, societal crises appear, forcing us to deviate, often dramatically, from our carefully plotted course. Sometimes, the path we were so certain of disappears entirely, leaving us feeling lost in an uncharted wilderness, our meticulously drawn maps utterly useless. These are the moments we typically describe as losing control. Our beautiful, self-assured Roman road has vanished, and we find ourselves, often bewildered and afraid, on a winding, confusing, thoroughly English path we neither chose nor anticipated. It is precisely here, in this disorienting space of perceived powerlessness, that the Chestertonian paradox of losing control to gain power comes into its own. The power Chesterton champions is not the power to wrestle the road straight again, to bulldoze through the obstacles, or to magically teleport ourselves back to our original idealized plan. Rather, it is the power that is found and forged in the very act of navigating the winding path. It is the quiet, resilient power of adaptation, the courageous power of facing the unknown. It is the profound power that comes from shifting our perspective, from seeing the world not as a recalcitrant object to be conquered and controlled, but as a vast, mysterious, and often beautiful adventure to be experienced with humility, wonder, and an open heart. When the illusion of our absolute control is shattered, we are compelled to draw upon resources we might otherwise have neglected or never even known we possessed. We must rely on our intuition, that quiet inner voice that often gets drowned out by the clamor of our own planning. We must rely on our intuition, that quiet inner voice that often gets drowned out by the clamor of our own planning. We become more open to the unexpected kindness of strangers, fellow travelers we meet on these unforeseen detours. We are often pushed towards a deeper reliance on faith, whether that be faith in a divine providence, faith in the enduring goodness of humanity, or simply faith in our own capacity to endure and learn. We discover the raw, unadorned courage of simply putting one foot in front of the other, even when the path ahead is shrouded in mist and we have no idea what lies around the next bend. This is not the declarative, commanding power of a Roman emperor surveying his straight roads. It is the tenacious, receptive power of a pilgrim, trusting not in the map, but in the ultimate meaning of the journey itself. Chesterton keenly observed that many of life's greatest joys, most profound insights, and most transformative experiences occur precisely when we are jolted off our planned, controlled path. The unexpected friendship forged in the crucible of a shared crisis, the hidden talent unearthed when necessity becomes the mother of invention, the new and more fulfilling direction revealed only when a familiar door slams definitively shut. These are the treasures often found on the winding detours, not on the straight highways. This discovery requires a courageous surrender, a surrender of our tightly gripped personal map, an admission that we do not, in fact, have all the answers, an embrace of the glorious, sometimes terrifying, uncertainty that is inherent in the fabric of reality. The power that emerges from this surrender is the power that flows from saying, "All right, this is not what I meticulously planned, this is not what I fervently desired. I am confused, I am perhaps afraid. I do not know precisely where this path is leading me, but I will walk it. I will walk it with courage, with curiosity, with an open heart, and with a nascent trust that there is meaning to be found even here, perhaps especially here." It is the enduring power of humility prevailing over arrogance, of receptivity triumphing over forceful imposition, of wide-eyed wonder eclipsing rigid, self-assured certainty. It is the paradoxical strength found in acknowledged vulnerability, the surprising guidance discovered amidst confusion, and the unexpected beauty that blossoms in the unplanned, often messy landscapes of authentic life. Chesterton's own spiritual odyssey, his long and winding path towards embracing Christian faith, is itself a profound illustration of this principle. His conversion was not a neat, linear progression, a simple intellectual exercise where he systematically ticked off logical proofs until faith was the only remaining option, though he was, undeniably, a formidable logician and defender of reason within faith. Rather, his journey, as chronicled in works like Orthodoxy and his autobiography, was a much more English road affair. It was filled with profound wrestling with cosmic questions, with exhilarating explorations of diverse philosophies and fleeting ideologies, with deep dives into skepticism and agnosticism. He famously said he tried to be a pagan, but cheerfulness was always breaking in. He found that the Christian story, in all its paradoxical grandeur and seemingly mythical elements, resonated with the deepest realities of the human heart and the observable truths of the universe in a way that purely materialistic or overly rationalistic systems could not. His ultimate embrace of faith was less about achieving an airtight intellectual control over every aspect of reality, and more about a humble, joyful surrender to a truth that he came to see as vast, coherent, and overwhelmingly real, a truth that encompassed and transcended his own considerable intellect. He didn't feel he was narrowing his mind by accepting dogma. Rather, he felt he was opening a door into a much larger, more wondrous room. In this profound act of losing control over his own intellectual constructions, he found an unparalleled intellectual and spiritual freedom, a boundless joy, and a deep sense of cosmic homecoming. This, too, is a crucial dimension of the power of losing control, the freedom that comes from allowing something infinitely larger and wiser than oneself to provide the ultimate map and compass. So, this isn't just abstract philosophy or quaint literary metaphor. How does this profound Chestertonian insight about the winding road and the power of losing control connect with the concrete realities of your life here in the 21st century with all its unique pressures and anxieties? Maybe you are navigating a period right now where it feels like your meticulously constructed Roman road has not just developed a pothole, but has completely disintegrated into dust. Perhaps a career path you dedicated years to, one that defined a significant part of your identity, has abruptly ended due to downsizing, technological shifts, or a personal realization that it was no longer fulfilling. Maybe a relationship you poured your heart and soul into, one you believed was your lifelong harbor, has fractured or dissolved, leaving you feeling adrift and unmoored. Perhaps a sudden health diagnosis, for yourself or a loved one, has thrown all your future plans into a terrifying state of uncertainty, forcing you to confront vulnerabilities you never imagined. Or it could be the relentless pressure of financial instability, the gnawing anxiety of not knowing how you'll meet your obligations, that has pulled the rug out from under your sense of security. Beyond the personal, perhaps it's the larger, more impersonal forces, societal upheavals, political polarization, environmental concerns, global pandemics, things entirely outside your individual sphere of influence that are creating a persistent undercurrent of anxiety, making your personal plans feel fragile, insignificant, or even impossible to pursue. In these moments of profound disorientation, when the familiar landmarks are gone and the way ahead is obscured, our natural, almost primal human reaction is often one of fear bordering on panic. We scramble, we grasp, we try desperately to regain control, to force the situation back into a recognizable shape, to quickly rebuild that straight Roman road exactly as it was before the earthquake, or, failing that, to immediately impose a new, equally straight and predictable road onto the chaotic landscape. We berate ourselves for not foreseeing a disruption, for not having a better contingency plan. We feel powerless, weak, adrift, and profoundly lost because our internal GPS is offline and our trusted map has become a useless piece of paper. But it is precisely here, in this very crucible of lost control, that the Chestertonian perspective offers not a quick fix, but a profound shift in orientation, an invitation to a different kind of engagement. What if this acute, uncomfortable, even terrifying feeling of losing control is not primarily a sign of your personal failure, nor merely a prelude to disaster, but is, in fact, an invitation? An often unwelcome, perhaps even painful invitation, but an invitation nonetheless. An invitation to step off the crumbling ruins of your Roman road and onto the uncertain, winding, but potentially revelatory English road. This is not a call to passivity, fatalism, or an abdication of personal responsibility. Chesterton was a great believer in purposeful action and moral agency. Rather, it's about making a crucial and often liberating distinction. The distinction between what you can genuinely influence, your attitude in this moment, the effort you expend on the next right step, the integrity of your character, how you treat others amidst the turmoil, your willingness to learn and adapt, and what you ultimately cannot fully control. The entirety of the past, the intricate choices and actions of other people, the precise long-term outcome of complex situations, the exact twists and turns the road of life will take in the future. The power that Chesterton speaks of, the power found in letting go of the illusion of absolute control, manifests in several transformative ways in our daily lives. The power of profound adaptation and resilience. When your meticulously planned route is irrevocably blocked, you are forced to adapt. You must become more resourceful, more inventive. You might have to learn new skills you never anticipated needing, tap into reserves of courage you didn't know you possessed, or develop a flexibility of mind that allows you to see alternative paths where before you only saw a dead end. This process of forced adaptation, while often uncomfortable, builds an incredible deep-seated resilience. Like a tree that bends in the storm rather than breaking, you develop an inner suppleness that allows you to withstand life's inevitable gales and even grow stronger because of them. This is not the power of unyielding rock, but the enduring power of flowing water, finding its way around any obstacle. The power of unexpected discovery and serendipity. The straight Roman road, by its very nature, bypasses much of the surrounding landscape. The winding English road, however, takes you through it. When you are nudged off your planned trajectory, you enter uncharted territory. And in this new territory, you might discover hidden talents within yourself that your previous, more controlled life had no room or need for. You might encounter new people, fellow travelers on similar detours, who enrich your life in profound and unforeseen ways, offering perspectives or companionship you wouldn't have found otherwise. You might stumble upon entirely new opportunities, passions, or callings that were invisible from your previous vantage point. Life often hides its most precious gifts in the unexpected detours. As Chesterton might say, the adventure begins when the map ends. The power of deeper, more authentic trust. When you can no longer rely solely on your own intellect, your own strength, your own perfect plan to navigate the complexities of life, you are invited to cultivate a deeper kind G.K. Chesterton's of trust. This might be trust in a higher power, a sense of divine guidance or providence that undergirds the apparent chaos. It might be trust in the inherent goodness and resilience of the human spirit, both your own and that of others. It could be trust in the supportive fabric of your community, the friends and family who rally around you in times of need. Or it might simply be a growing experiential trust in your own capacity to handle whatever comes next, even if you don't know what next looks like. This trust is not blind, it is often hard-won, forged in the fires of uncertainty, but it provides a bedrock of stability that is far more reliable than the illusion of personal control. It's the trust of the sailor who, while skillfully managing the sails, ultimately trusts the wind and the sea. The power of enhanced presence and appreciation. Constantly striving to control the future, to stick rigidly to a predetermined map, often means that we are not fully present to the journey itself. Our minds are perpetually racing ahead, anticipating the next checkpoint, worrying about potential deviations, or regretting past missteps. When we loosen our grip on the future, when we accept that the road will wind, we create space to become more present to the here and now. We begin to notice the small beauties along the current stretch of path, the unexpected kindness, the moment of quiet reflection, the lesson learned from a difficulty. We can find a measure of joy and gratitude in the steps we are taking, rather than being perpetually frustrated by the destination we haven't yet reached or the ideal path we are no longer on. This presence is where life is truly lived. The power of liberating humility. The act of admitting, I am not in absolute control of this situation. I do not have all the answers. I cannot force reality to bend to my will, is a profound act of humility. In a culture that often equates humility with weakness, Chesterton understood it as a foundational virtue and a source of immense, albeit quiet, strength. Humility is not about self-abasement. It's about self-awareness, about seeing ourselves and our capabilities in right relation to the vastness and complexity of reality. This humility opens us up. It makes us teachable, allowing us to learn from our experiences, including our mistakes and setbacks. It makes us more receptive to help from others and from sources beyond ourselves. It allows us to see reality more clearly, as it truly is, rather than through the distorting lens of our own ego-driven desires and expectations. And in that clarity, there is immense freedom. Take a moment to reflect on your own life's journey. Think about a time when something went catastrophically wrong according to your plans. A significant setback, a painful failure, a period where you felt utterly powerless, where the ground seemed to vanish from beneath you. Now, looking back at that experience with the benefit of hindsight, can you see how that moment of losing control might have, paradoxically, been a turning point? Did that crisis force you to change direction in a way that ultimately proved beneficial, even if painful at the time? Did you unearth a strength, a resilience, or a talent within yourself that you didn't know you possessed? Did you learn something absolutely crucial about yourself, about others, about life, or about faith that you would not have learned on an easier, more predictable path? Did unexpected help arrive, or did new, unforeseen opportunities eventually emerge from the rubble of your old plans? Those are precisely the moments where the subtle, paradoxical Chesterton power of losing control was at work. It was life dismantling your carefully constructed Roman road and, with a wisdom often inscrutable in the moment, guiding you onto a winding, perhaps initially terrifying, English road. A road that, while not of your own choosing, may have ultimately led you to a richer, more complex, more authentic, and perhaps even more breathtakingly beautiful destination than the one you had originally and so confidently envisioned. Embracing the English road of life, with all its unpredictable twists and turns, is not about becoming a passive wanderer without aim or purpose. It's about cultivating a dynamic and courageous openness. It's about holding your plans, your expectations, and your desire for control with a lighter grip. Recognizing that the true adventure of human existence often lies not in arriving precisely on schedule at a meticulously predetermined point on a map of your own making, but in navigating the journey itself, with all its surprises, its challenges, its sorrows, and its joys, with courage, with faith, with a sense of wonder, and with a growing trust that even the most bewildering detours have something vital and precious to teach you. It's about discovering that true, enduring strength is found not in the constant assertion of control, but in the wise and timely surrender. Surrendering the illusion of absolute personal control to the profound and often mysterious reality of a dynamic, surprising, and ultimately purposeful journey.
G.K. Chesterton, with his profound wit and even more profound wisdom, consistently reminds us that the universe is far stranger, more wonderful, and more meaningful than our neat and tidy theories often allow. He shows us that true power, the kind that sustains and enriches the soul, isn't always found in gripping the reins tighter, but sometimes, paradoxically, in the courage to open our hand, to let go of our desperate need to dictate every outcome. It's about recognizing that the winding, unpredictable, sometimes challenging paths of life, those very moments where we feel most acutely that we are losing control, can be the precise junctures where we find our greatest strength, where our faith is deepened and purified, and where our most profound and lasting discoveries are made. This is, admittedly, a challenging and counterintuitive idea in a world that relentlessly preaches the gospel of self-determination, efficiency, and absolute control. It requires a shift in perspective, a willingness to embrace mystery, and a courage to trust in a pattern larger than our own immediate comprehension. But it is an idea brimming with profound hope, with the promise of unshakable resilience, and with the invitation to a more adventurous, more authentic, and ultimately more joyful engagement with the great drama of life.
Now, I turn it over to you. Reflect on your own journey. Have you ever experienced a significant period in your life when things felt overwhelmingly out of your control? A time when your plans crumbled, your certainties dissolved, and you felt utterly adrift. And yet, looking back, can you now discern ways in which that very experience of losing control paradoxically led to unexpected strength, to vital learning, to a newfound clarity, or to the discovery of a new, perhaps even better path for your life? What does losing control mean to you, and how has Chesterton's perspective perhaps shed new light on it? Share your stories, your reflections, your struggles, and your insights in the comments section below. What English roads have you found yourself on, and what treasures did you discover there that you never would have found on the straight path you initially envisioned? Let's explore this potent and liberating Chestertonian wisdom together, and perhaps as we navigate our own unique and winding paths, we can all learn to embrace the journey with a little more trust, a little more wonder, and a little less insistence on knowing exactly what lies around the next bend. For, as Chesterton himself might remind us, an adventure is only an inconvenience rightly considered. An inconvenience is only an adventure wrongly considered.